Harley-Davidson didn't see this coming. Honda just dropped a cruiser so sleek, so affordable, and so perfectly timed. It's not just competition, it's a takeover. This isn't about features anymore, it's about survival. And Harley's on the edge. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see why this changes everything. What's happening? This wasn't just another product hitting showroom floors, this was a strategic ambush, years in the making. Honda's release of the Rebel 500 wasn't a gentle return to the cruiser market, it was a direct shot across Harley-Davidson's bow. Quietly, almost methodically, Honda waited, observed, and engineered a cruiser that didn't try to beat Harley at its own game. Instead, it changed the game entirely. From a corporate strategy perspective, this launch is nothing short of genius. Honda bypassed the image wars and ego-driven culture that Harley has depended on for decades. They didn't release a roaring beast dripping in chrome and nostalgia. They launched a bike that undercuts Harley's business model on every level: price, accessibility, usability, and mass appeal. The Rebel 500 wasn't designed to fight the Street Glide or Road King, it was designed to wipe out the entry-level space Harley once tried to own but abandoned. What's most startling isn't just the product, it's the timing. Harley-Davidson has been grappling with declining youth engagement, shrinking margins, and sluggish international expansion. While Harley doubled down on its heritage, Honda built a future-forward machine that speaks to the next generation of riders without alienating veterans. This wasn't a market response. It was a calculated disruption. And the moment that matte black Rebel 500 rolled into dealerships, Harley didn't just face new competition, it faced a fundamental threat to its business identity. But that threat wasn't just rooted in strategy. It was deeply personal. For riders who'd been waiting for a bike that finally spoke their language. Harley-Davidson's iconic legacy is under threat. Do you think they can bounce back from Honda's bold move with the Rebel 500? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates. Built for everyone Harley forgot. For decades, cruisers were designed like fortresses, heavy, tall, and intimidating. They were rolling declarations of attitude, not accessibility. And that was the problem. Harley built its world around riders who already fit the image. But what about everyone else? What about shorter riders, new riders, or anyone who didn't want to wrestle a 550-pound machine just to enjoy the weekend? Honda knew exactly who they were designing for. The Rebel 500's seat height is just under 28 inches. That single number represents an entire design philosophy. Make the cruiser experience possible for more people. Whether you're 5 feet tall or 6, the bike is easy to straddle. Whether you're new to two wheels or returning after a long hiatus, it doesn't punish you for being unsure. It invites you in. Compare that to the posture Harley's lineup imposes. High handlebars, wide reach, and heavy throttle response create a riding profile that demands confidence or discourages anyone without it. And that's the difference. The Rebel doesn't try to impress you with size. It earns your trust with comfort and control. The weight is kept just under 440 pounds, and the ergonomics are balanced rather than dramatic. There's no muscle flexing here, just thoughtful engineering. This isn't about removing soul from the ride, it's about making soul accessible. In doing so, Honda cracked a code Harley refused to acknowledge. The next generation of riders doesn't want a statement piece. They want something they can live with. And when those riders started slipping into showrooms to try the Rebel, something else surprised them. The bike didn't just feel friendly, it felt refined. Looking to gear up? We've picked the best jackets, gloves, and accessories. Check the description to see what we actually use. The engine Harley should have built 10 years ago. Underneath the tank, Honda placed a 471 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine, a configuration that tells you exactly what Honda had in mind. Practical, efficient power that doesn't overwhelm, but also doesn't disappoint. It produces just over 45 brake horsepower at 8,500 revolutions per minute and delivers more than 43 Newton meters of torque in the mid-range, around 6,500 revolutions per minute. But what matters more than the numbers is the experience. This engine, borrowed from Honda's popular CB and NX series, is famously smooth, tractable, and low maintenance. It doesn't thump, rattle, or roar for attention. It simply delivers clean, predictable thrust when you need it. You twist the throttle and it answers, not with violence, but with confidence. Where Harley's design teams clung to the past, Honda embraced modular evolution. And the moment a rider leaves the stoplight on a Rebel 500, they understand. This isn't about about compromising for cost. It's about choosing smart over show. And as that engine pulls away with grace, so does Honda, leaving Harley looking like it's still solving problems riders abandoned years ago. Designed to look like muscle, ride like silk. It only takes a glance to understand Honda knew how important style still is. The Rebel 500 looks muscular, bold, and confident, almost like it's punching above its class. The fat Dunlop tires, the low-slung stance, the matte black finishes all signal presence. But what it doesn't do is punish you for that look, because underneath the styling is comfort, usability, and balance. This is where Harley often fumbles. In many of their models, the emphasis on look comes at the cost of practicality. Hard suspensions, cramped ergonomics, or overly forward controls make long rides an ordeal. In contrast, the Rebel 500 offers a twin-shock rear with Showa hardware and telescopic forks up front. That translates to real-world comfort, especially for city riders who face potholes, speed bumps, and uneven roads. Even details like the serrated pegs and brake lever show thought. They're not just aesthetic, they're functional, offering better grip for daily use. The LCD dash is simple, circular, and complete with speed, fuel, gear position, trip meters, and average fuel consumption. It doesn't scream luxury, but it never leaves you guessing either. It's the same story with lighting. Full LED headlamps, taillights, and turn signals that double as hazard lights give it a futuristic edge without overdoing it. You feel like you're riding something intentionally crafted, not hastily modernized. They know not everyone wants chrome, not everyone wants loud. Some riders just want freedom, reliability, and subtle style. The Rebel delivers all three, wrapped in a body that still turns heads at the traffic light. And that's the danger for Harley, because the Rebel doesn't need to shout to get attention. It just needs to work. And it does, brilliantly. But as riders began defecting to this new machine, it wasn't just sales Harley was losing, it was its grip on the future. Because when we look at Harley's past decisions, one thing becomes clear: they saw this future coming and chose to look away. The ghost of Harley's entry-level failures. In 2014, Harley-Davidson tried to reach new riders with the Street 500 and Street 750. It was a bold move, at least on paper. The bikes were smaller, cheaper, and stripped down. They were supposed to be Harley's invitation to the next generation, but they were also underpowered, poorly marketed, and built without the pride that defined Harley's core lineup. What happened next still haunts the company. Riders did not fall in love. Reviews were lukewarm. Many dealerships barely pushed them. Within a few years, Harley quietly pulled the plug. But the damage was done, not just to sales, but to Harley's reputation for adaptability. When the cruiser market desperately needed evolution, Harley retreated into its comfort zone. For analysts and former buyers, the Street Series represented Harley's last real shot at evolving downward to serve urban commuters, new license holders, and value-conscious riders. And they missed. Worse, they learned the wrong lesson. Instead of fixing the problems, they abandoned the concept entirely. No follow-up, no global rework, no recovery strategy, just silence. And that silence created space. It gave Honda time to study what went wrong and how to avoid it. The Rebel 500 succeeded not just because of what it was, but because of what Harley failed to be. Reliable, approachable, real. Honda learned from Harley's mistake and filled the gap with precision. In a world where second chances are rare, Harley had one, and they let it rot in a showroom corner. But while Harley misread the moment, Honda understood exactly what riders wanted, and they priced it like they meant it. The 6 lakh shock Harley can't survive. A cruiser for 6 lakh rupees. That is what Honda delivered. In the Indian market and others like it, that number changes everything. It is not just affordable, it is strategic. At that price point, the Rebel 500 does not compete with Harley. It wipes the entry-level tier off the board. Harley's least expensive bikes hover far above that figure, even before factoring in dealer markups, taxes, and accessories. And for that extra cost, riders do not get more. They get heavier frames, less refined engines, and intimidating ergonomics. Honda, on the other hand, offers sleek design, LED lighting, solid performance, and a brand new proven platform, all within the 6 lakh threshold. What makes this more painful for Harley is that they cannot counterattack. They cannot afford to. Their manufacturing model, dealer network, and supply chain do not support it. Slashing prices would collapse their margins. And what the Rebel 500 did was not just offer a great price. It exposed a structural weakness that Harley cannot patch overnight. And for young American riders, that weakness did not just feel economic, it felt cultural. How one bike cracked Harley's American armor. To Gen Z riders and younger millennials, the Rebel is not just another bike, it is a rejection of inherited symbolism. It is the choice to ride without the baggage. This cultural shift did not happen overnight. It has been building for years. Harley's refusal to adapt, their insistence on high displacement and heavy styling, their inability to speak to urban realities, all of it made space for something new. And Honda filled that space with discipline. Young riders today are pragmatic. They care less about flags and more about features. They want comfort, fuel efficiency, digital displays, USB ports, and bikes they can ride to work, not just bar hop on weekends. The Rebel delivers that. Harley does not. And the deeper cut? This generation grew up watching the decline of American icons. They are not surprised Harley is struggling. In fact, many see it as inevitable. The Rebel 500 cracked open Harley's armor not with horsepower, but with relevance. And once relevance is gone, legacy cannot protect you. The shock was not limited to Harley. Industry players around the world were now on high alert. Kawasaki, Enfield, and the panic pricing spiral. Inside boardrooms at Kawasaki and Royal Enfield, what once looked like solid product strategies now appeared dangerously fragile. The Kawasaki Eliminator 500, priced tens of thousands of rupees higher than Honda's Rebel, suddenly feels bloated and poorly positioned. Its marginal performance advantage doesn't justify the premium when buyers are calculating every rupee, dollar, or euro in an era of inflation and debt. Royal Enfield finds itself in a bind of a different kind. The Super Meteor 650 had carved out a niche as an affordable, approachable cruiser. But now it's being squeezed from both sides. It's more expensive than the Rebel, yet less refined in ride quality, engineering, and technology. Worse, consumers who once aspired to the Royal Enfield badge for prestige are now shifting their loyalty toward Honda's sleek modernism. Dealers are watching foot traffic slow for the Meteor lineup, while customers repeatedly ask for test rides on the Rebel instead. This is not just a sales slump, it's a strategic crisis. Kawasaki's pricing is under review. Royal Enfield is scrambling to add features or offer temporary rebates. And across Asia, Europe, and even in export markets like Australia, marketing departments are being told to go back to the drawing board. Because when one bike redefines value in this category, every other model looks like an overpriced compromise. And the real problem? Honda is just getting started, because behind the Rebel's competitive price lies something even more dangerous, a manufacturing advantage no other cruiser maker can match. The manufacturing war Harley can't win. On paper, Harley-Davidson and Honda build motorcycles, but behind the scenes, they represent two fundamentally different industrial empires. Honda is a mass production behemoth with decades of experience refining global supply chains, shared platforms, and cost-efficient assembly. Harley, in contrast, still builds motorcycles like its 1978 by hand in limited batches with sky-high overhead. This difference has always been visible in pricing, but now as Honda pushes aggressively into cruiser territory, it's becoming a fatal weakness. The Rebel 500 doesn't just win on price, it wins on consistency, parts availability, and production scaling. Honda can build these bikes in multiple countries at volume, using platform-shared components from its NX 500 and CB series. That means fewer bottlenecks, lower cost per unit, and faster inventory turnover. When demand spikes, Honda can ramp up. When inflation hits, Honda can weather it. Harley? Not so much. The cost to build even Harley's most affordable models remains disproportionately high, largely due to outdated manufacturing setups and unionized labor contracts. That's not a knock on American workers. It's a reflection of Harley's refusal to modernize its supply chain in time. Meanwhile, Honda's lean production systems and vertical integration allow it to beat Harley not just in price, but in operational resilience. And this gap is widening. In the era of unpredictable logistics, high material costs, and global competition, efficiency is king. Honda holds that crown now, And as this war shifts from dealership floors to factory lines, the battle isn't just about motorcycles anymore. It's about which company can survive 21st century manufacturing realities. But the bigger issue for Harley isn't just being outproduced, it's about where those bikes are going and who's actually buying them. The market Harley ignored now controls the future. For decades, Harley-Davidson focused on one type of rider, the aging American cruiser loyalist. In doing so, they overlooked the fastest-growing motorcycle markets on Earth. Countries like India, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines are now shaping the future of two-wheeled transportation. And in every one of those markets, Honda is the default name in reliability, affordability, and dealer support. The Rebel 500 isn't just a good cruiser, it's the right cruiser for cities where fuel prices, road conditions, and practical needs drive every purchase. In India, Harley made a brief, half-hearted attempt to partner with local manufacturers before pulling back. In contrast, Honda spent decades building infrastructure, service networks, and consumer trust. The result? Honda doesn't need to break into these markets. It already owns them. And with the Rebel now available at a price point that hits the upper edge of what premium middle-class consumers can afford, it lands squarely where aspirational meets accessible. Buyers in Jakarta, Mumbai, and Ho Chi Minh City aren't looking for leather vests and nostalgia. They're looking for reliable, smooth, stylish machines that don't cost a year's salary to maintain. Honda understood this. Harley did not. And now, the pricing, fuel efficiency, and riding posture of the Rebel align perfectly with local expectations, especially as riders look for lightweight cruisers they can use in traffic-heavy environments without giving up style. This isn't just market expansion, it's market replacement. And while Harley fades from memory in Asia, Honda grows even stronger. But in the Western world, where Harley once dominated, something equally surprising is happening. Why Harley dealers are secretly rooting for Honda. Walk into a Harley-Davidson dealership today and you'll feel it, that tension in the air. The showroom floor looks full, but the buyer traffic is thin. Financing terms are longer, profit margins are thinner, and bikes are sitting unsold for months. Meanwhile, across town, Honda's big-wing dealerships are turning over Rebels faster than they can receive new shipments. The reasons are no mystery. But what no one wants to admit is that some Harley dealers are watching Honda's success with more than just concern. They're watching with envy. In private conversation, some longtime Harley dealers are asking uncomfortable questions. Should we diversify? Should we apply for big-wing licenses? The financial math doesn't lie. A Honda Rebel moves quickly. It rarely sits on the floor longer than a few weeks. It rarely needs incentives. Its maintenance costs are low, its recalls rare, and its buyers come back for upgrades. This isn't betrayal, it's survival. And for many Harley-affiliated dealerships, Honda's rise isn't just a threat, it's a lifeline they're too proud to reach for publicly. But beyond factories, showrooms, and boardrooms, something deeper was breaking, something cultural. The cruiser culture just got rewritten. There was a time when the cruiser motorcycle was synonymous with American identity. Chrome, weight, thunder, and rebellion. But for an entire new generation, that definition has just been rewritten. The Honda Rebel 500 is not just a product, it's a cultural reset. For Gen Z riders, the loudness of legacy has been replaced with the quiet confidence of practicality. No more wrestling with oversized machines, no more paying for badges that mean nothing to modern eyes. The word cool has moved east, and Harley-Davidson's stronghold on image-based biking has been breached. Across social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, young riders are showing off their Rebels in tight urban alleys, art school parking lots, and neon-lit night rides. Instead of showcasing massive fairings and deafening pipes, these posts highlight minimalism, matte finishes, and precise proportions. Gen Z doesn't want to be seen as intimidating. They want to be understood as efficient, stylish, and agile. The Rebel 500 doesn't scream. It speaks. Harley's marketing machine is still running full throttle, pushing nostalgia, Americana, and rugged masculinity. But that language no longer resonates with riders who grew up in the post-recession world. They value function over form, independence over tradition, and most of all, they want bikes that fit their lives, not define them. In this cultural pivot, the Rebel became a vessel for a new kind of freedom. And that shift in identity didn't just stay online, it hit the factory floor in ways Harley leadership never saw coming. Labor versus legacy, the silent rebellion inside the factory. Inside Harley-Davidson's oldest plants, something has shifted, and it's not just the demand curve. Workers assembling machines in Wisconsin, Missouri, and Pennsylvania are doing their jobs, but the energy is no longer the same. You can feel it in the break rooms, hear it in the silences between shifts. Morale has eroded, not because production lines have slowed, but because the mission behind the work no longer inspires. As news spreads of the Honda Rebel 500 disrupting markets globally, many Harley employees are starting to ask themselves, who are we building these bikes for? It's a quiet rebellion. No walkouts, no strikes, just questions, conversations, resentments. These are workers who've spent decades forging iron into legend, but now they see that legend losing its relevance. When management continues to push premium pricing while sales stall and younger generations walk away from the brand entirely, it creates an emotional fracture. How long can you build symbols that people no longer believe in? Some workers, particularly those who joined during Harley's last boom 2 decades ago, remember a time when their labor meant something larger than a paycheck. It was cultural pride. Now many say it feels like manufacturing for a museum piece. The Rebel, with its stripped-down simplicity and worldwide appeal, has triggered something uncomfortable, proof that the old model is no longer the only way. And as the workforce watches their own children and neighbors choose Honda over Harley, the deeper fear becomes clear. It's not just about job security, it's about being on the wrong side of history. That sentiment hasn't gone unnoticed by the people who watch numbers for a living. The investor class is watching Harley bleed. In boardrooms and brokerage houses across New York, Boston, and London, analysts are beginning to whisper what no one dared say out loud a year ago. Harley-Davidson might no longer be a growth stock. The release of the Honda Rebel 500 has done more than eat into sales. It has exposed Harley's financial fragility. Investors are watching quarterly reports with growing unease as units move slower, promotional costs rise, and younger demographics continue to drift away. Harley-Davidson's business model is rooted in prestige pricing. Its margins depend on the ability to charge premium prices for machines that represent more than transportation. They represent identity. But identity is shifting, and the Rebel proves that a stylish, high-quality cruiser can be sold for nearly half the price. The cost-to-value comparison has become impossible to ignore. Worse, Harley's operational model isn't built to compete at lower price points. They don't have the scale, supply chain flexibility, or international partnerships that Honda does. The investor class is also paying attention to something more subtle but more dangerous: brand fatigue. The once powerful aura of Harley-Davidson is no longer converting into new customers. Loyalty is aging out, enthusiasm is tapering off, and worst of all, dealers are stuck holding expensive inventory that's no longer moving. That kind of bottleneck does more than frustrate sales reps. It sends red flags up Wall Street's flagpole. When a brand begins to lose relevance faster than it can innovate, it ceases to be a growth story and becomes a liability. For Harley-Davidson shareholders, the bleeding isn't metaphorical. It's already showing up in the numbers. But the most dangerous part? The Honda Rebel isn't just draining market share, it's redrawing the entire battlefield. With Honda shaking up the cruiser market, how will Harley respond? Share your predictions in the comments below and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next in this epic battle. This wasn't a motorcycle, it was a line in the sand. From a distance, it may look like just another mid-size cruiser, but the Honda Rebel 500 is not merely a motorcycle, it is a moment, a declaration, a philosophical shift embedded inside a steel frame. The kind of moment that divides an era into before and after. For more than 100 years, the motorcycle industry has been shaped by a single dominant narrative: that freedom, rebellion, and power came roaring out of Milwaukee. But now, with one silent pivot, that story has a new author. What the Rebel represents is deeper than technology, design, or price. It represents the democratization of identity on two wheels. No longer does someone need to look like a biker to be one. No longer do they need to buy into the pageantry of black leather, chrome tanks, and tribal branding. The Rebel is utilitarian without being dull, confident without being loud, and rebellious without being insecure. And that blend has rewritten the emotional code of what motorcycling means in the modern world. Observers across the industry, journalists, designers, CEOs, now admit something that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago. The American cruiser, as we knew it, is no longer the center of gravity. This one motorcycle has fractured that legacy and opened a space where new traditions are already taking root. The question is no longer whether the Rebel will sell, it's whether it will be remembered as the model that changed everything. Honda's Rebel 500 isn't just a bike, it's a statement. The future of motorcycling is changing, and Harley's next move could determine its place in that future. What do you think of the new Honda? Let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more as we follow this incredible shift in the motorcycle world.